What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. We continue with our 2025 college football predictions for the upcoming 2025 college football season. Up next is the Colorado Buffaloes. Of course, that team that gets talked about a lot in the history of college football and this new generation of college football ever since Deion Sanders got here a couple of years ago. Well, you look at this Colorado team for 2025. Are they going to be able to be, really good as they were in the last couple of years? I wouldn't really say last couple of years because they weren't really that good in 2023, obviously, but last year they're coming off a 9-4 season. Obviously, Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter gone. Obviously, two huge losses here for this Colorado team, but I think they still got playmakers. You look at this roster for this year, it's not maybe as talented as the rosters that they've had in the last couple of years, but they do got Kaidon Salter coming in, the transfer quarterback. I wonder how good he's going to be for this Colorado team. I think it's really going to come down to him in this offense. This offense may not be as explosive as it was in the last couple of years, but this Colorado team still has a lot of new faces that are going to step up right away, and they're just going to be an offense that will be probably tough to stop. Their defense, though, I think it's also going to come down to them. Their defense hasn't really been the best in the last couple of years either. Last year kind of made some jump, kind of made a little bit of a jump, but it still wasn't enough to come up with like a playoff appearance. But let's now get to the schedule here for Colorado for 2025. Here is that schedule for the Buffaloes heading into 2025. Again, Colorado, they were 9-4 last year in 2024. So let's go game by game, and I'll give you my official prediction for this Colorado team for 2025 as well. And they start things off with a big one, and it's going to be against Georgia Tech on August the 30th. Switch that. I think this game is actually switched now to like a Friday night game, I suppose. So yeah, this game probably is on August 29th. So I messed up my graphic and everything. This game, of course, came out early in the year, and it was scheduled for August the 30th. But I'm sure it's a Friday night game, so correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, this Georgia Tech team, you look at them this year, this will be a home game here for the Buffaloes. This is kind of a huge game here in the non-conference. Georgia Tech has a lot of pieces coming back on both sides of the football, including their starting quarterback in Haynes King. You look at this matchup, I feel like Georgia Tech has an advantage, especially on the offensive side of the football. This is a team that's going to be able to run the football in this game, and they also got Haynes King that can run the football as well. I think that's going to give that Colorado defense a lot of trouble. And then you look at the other side for the Buffaloes. They do have an offense that can score on this Georgia Tech defense, but I just look at these two teams. I feel like just Georgia Tech is a little bit better than Colorado. Not saying they're well coached and everything. I mean, this is a pretty even matchup, but I just think Georgia Tech is a slightly better team. Again, running the football is definitely the strength of this team. And then also for Colorado, they like the passing game a lot. And I think if they pass the football, then that probably could give, the Georgia Tech defense a little bit of trouble. But I just look at this Georgia Tech roster. I feel like they're just a better team. They kind of have more experience than Colorado does. And again, I do trust, Haynes King at quarterback more than Kaidon Salter at quarterback. And I think that probably is the difference. It's probably going to come down to whoever the better quarterback is at the end of the day. And I think that's what it's going to come down to. So I think Haynes King is the better quarterback here. And I also think him running the football is going to give Colorado's defensive line a little bit of trouble. So I'm actually going to go with Georgia Tech. So even though Colorado is at home in this game, I'm actually going to go with Georgia Tech here to win this game. So I got Colorado starting off 0-1, but then they take care of Delaware there, and I got them improving to 1-1 on the season, and then they jump right into Big 12 play. Again, like I said, that game against Georgia Tech is on a Friday. I meant to, change my graphic and everything, but I did the schedule previews, and this game got changed to Friday. So, yeah, that's on August the 29th, not on August 30th on Saturday. After that, though, Colorado does play Houston on the road here on September 13th. This is a Houston team that's trying to turn things around after a pretty rough year in Willie Fritz's first year. I think the second year is going to be a little bit better for them. I don't know if they have like the talent of Colorado, though, so if that makes sense. I think Colorado does beat Houston here on the road. I think it probably is a close game in the first half, but then Colorado kind of gets things figured out and they probably pull away in the second half. I don't know if their defense will be like really good in the first half of the year, but maybe the defense probably does step up in the second half of the season. But I think Colorado at least gets the win against Houston here on September 13th, so that puts the Buffaloes now at 2-1. But then 3-1 after taking care of business against Wyoming. That's a pretty good group of 5 team out of the Mountain West and everything, but they weren't really that great last year, so Colorado definitely will win this game pretty easily, and that puts them at 3-1. And then they play BYU after that here on September 27th. This will obviously be a revenge game for Colorado, especially after losing the bowl game last year. I really don't understand that, why they played in the bowl game last year, and that obviously gave Colorado definitely a big disadvantage because they got blown out in that game, and that also was the last game that we saw Shadir Sanders and Travis Hunter play, and they were definitely not playmakers in that game. BYU was just all over this Colorado offense last year. You look at this BYU team this year, they're really well experienced on both sides of the football. Jake Ratcliffe is back at quarterback, and if you go back to my BYU prediction, I did pick the Cougars to win this game, so I'm still going to not change that pick. I think BYU's experience roster is probably going to be enough here to win a tough test here on the road at Colorado, and like I said, I think this is a close game. Colorado definitely can pull off an upset here, but I'm going to go with the Cougars of BYU to win this game, so even though it's at home, I'm going to go with BYU to win this game. So that drops Colorado down to 3-2 on the season. After that, they play TCU on the road on October the 4th. Remember a couple of years ago, Colorado, before they even became a member of the Big 12, they beat TCU on the road that year, and that was obviously where the hype started for Colorado. They ended up not being good the rest of the way. TCU kind of went disappointed the rest of the way. So yeah, you look at this TCU team, I don't think they have really forgotten about that game. I think they kind of look back to that game a couple of years ago. Some of those players may have been on that roster, and they definitely want to get big revenge on this Colorado team, and I think they do. I think this is a close game. It's a competitive game, but I think playing at home, I think it's the difference here for TCU. So I'm going to go with the Horned Frogs here to not pull off an upset. I mean, obviously, Colorado lost the last week's game, so that does drop to Colorado now 3-3 on the season. After that, they play a home game against Iowa State on October the 11th. This is an Iowa State team, that was well experienced last year. This year, they lost a couple of good receivers on the offensive side of the football. That's the one thing I have concerned here for the Cyclones this year for Rocco Beck at quarterback. Yeah, obviously he's back, but the question is Iowa State going to have a passing attack this year? That's obviously a major concern here for Iowa State because those were the two receivers that they only went to last year. And this is a game that I think is going to be competitive. I think it is a pretty fairly even matchup. I think Iowa State is definitely the more well-coached team, but I think Colorado playing at home, especially after 2 losses in a row to BYU and TCU, they come in fired up for this one, potentially against a top 15 team like Iowa State, and I think they pull off an upset here. So I'm going Colorado here to win this game. So that's also their second win in the Big 12. That puts them at 2-2 in the Big 12, and then also 4-3 on the season. So I got them getting the win over Iowa State, and then they get their first bye week. Finally, before playing Utah on the road on October 25th, this is a very tough place to play on the road at Utah. I feel like Utah will turn things around this year, but I just feel like I don't know how good this team is going to be. I think it really does come down to their offense. I think they're going to have a really good defense that can stop this Colorado offense from, pretty much, getting on the field for a long time. And I also think Utah probably will run the football in this game, but I don't think it's going to be quite enough. I think Colorado definitely is the better team, so I think they beat Utah here on the road, and also that bye week does kind of help them out here before playing them. So I got Colorado improving to 5-3. Next, they play Arizona at home on November 1st. I think this is one of those games where Colorado definitely wins big. I don't really think Arizona is going to be all that great this year. They do return their starting quarterback and all, but that is just a team that is tough to figure out. So I'm going to go with Colorado here to pull off a win, and I got them improving to 6-3. And then the final 3 games of the season are actually pretty tough. You got West Virginia on the road first, though, on November 8th. Very tough place to play in Morgantown. This is probably one of those games where I think Colorado maybe slips up in. They have 3 wins in a row, so they're coming in on a winning streak, and they also could probably be like in the top 25 by this point. So I think West Virginia comes in a little bit fired up for this game. And also, these two teams did not play last year during the regular season, so I think West Virginia, they're not the better team, but they're definitely playing at home and everything. It's always tough to go against West Virginia when they're playing at home and everything. So I think West Virginia actually wins this game. So I'm going to go with the Mountaineers to pull off maybe a slight upset. Let's just put it that way. But I got West Virginia getting the win. So that does drop Colorado to 6-4. And then they get their second bye week before playing Arizona State at home on November 22nd. This is another huge game for Colorado against another experienced team in the Big 12. They had BYU there on September 27th and Arizona State here on November 22nd. They also get a bye week before playing this game, which I think is a really good spot for a bye week, because you look at the West Virginia game, they might be looking ahead to this Arizona State game, and they get a bye week before playing this game. So it's definitely one of those upset alert type games here for sure. But I think Arizona State is just too good. I just feel like, the well-coached team, and then also just the experience of Arizona State, because they had the second most returning production coming back in the Big 12. So, or actually maybe in the country. I think they had the second best returning production coming back in the country. And I just think that's going to be enough for the Sun Devils to get this win. So this is a prediction that I can definitely see going either way, but I'm going to go with, Arizona State to get the win. And I got Colorado dropping to 6-5. And then they close things out with Kansas State on the road on November 29th. Very tough place to play here against the Wildcats. Kansas State, I think, will be a little bit better this year. You got Avery Johnson, and I think he'll be a little bit better this year as well. This is a well-coached Kansas State team. They're kind of similar to Iowa State and then also Arizona State. They're just really that well coached, and I just feel like playing at home, and also that's a very tough place to play. So I'm going to go with Kansas State here to get the win. I think it is a competitive game. It does come down to the wire, but I'm going to go Wildcats here. So after 3 wins in a row, I got them losing 3 games in a row, and that drops to Colorado now, and that puts them at 6-6, and that is what I'm going to go with here for Colorado. So 6-6 is my prediction for this team. So I barely have them making it to a bowl game. This is a very tough schedule. BYU and Arizona State both on the schedule. Good news is 2 of those games are at home. I can definitely see them winning one of these 2 games. I could probably see this team going 7-5. I don't know about 8-4, but if they lose somewhere else, it probably could be against Utah or even Houston on the road. West Virginia, I can definitely see them winning that game. You look at Georgia Tech at the beginning of the year. If they win that game, I think Colorado probably goes 7-5, maybe 8-4. But if they lose that game, this team probably goes 6-6, or maybe even worse, 5-7 in 2025. I don't know if they can go 5-7 though. This is a team that definitely should be able to make it to a bowl game. But I got this team taking a little bit of a step back from last year, and I got them going 6-6 for 2025. Do you guys agree or disagree with this prediction? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and give me your prediction for this Colorado team down in the comments below as well. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.